You know the drill. It's January 1st, you've got this huge burst of motivation, and you think, this is it. This is the year. But then February rolls around, and that motivation, well, it's pretty much vanished, right? And the resolution is long forgotten. So, what if the problem isn't your willpower? What if it's the very way you set the goal in the first place? Today, we're going to unpack the science behind why resolutions fail and show you a simple, proven framework to actually make them stick. I love this quote from business leader Tom Glover because it just nails it. He talks about that resolution crowd you see packing the gym in January running on pure motivation. But as he says, motivation is a fair weather friend. It's awesome for getting you started, but it is absolutely not going to carry you to the finish line. And that's exactly why the gym is nearly empty again by the middle of February. And the data really backs this up in a huge way. There was this landmark study by Norcross and Vangerelli that tracked people making resolutions for 2 full years. And the results? Only 19% were still successful. Let that sink in. That means more than 4 out of every 5 people failed. That is a staggering failure rate. So this leads to a really crucial question. If the vast majority of us are failing, is it really just some personal flaw, a lack of willpower, or is there something fundamentally wrong with how we even approach resolutions? The data really suggests the problem isn't the effort we're putting in, but the strategy we're using. Which brings us to our first big idea, the resolution trap. This is this kind of hidden psychological setup that actually works against us. It makes failure the most likely outcome, even when we have the best intentions. So the core idea here is, believe it or not, surprisingly simple. The success of your goal often has less to do with the goal itself, whether it's losing weight or learning a language, and everything to do with the language you use to frame it in your own mind. So how does this actually play out? Well, a huge study published in the journal PLOS One gives us a really powerful, evidence-based answer. What researchers found was this clear dividing line between goals that succeed and goals that fail, and it all comes down to one simple idea: approach, don't avoid. Okay, so what's the difference? This slide illustrates it perfectly. On the left, you've got avoidance goals. They're all about restriction, focusing on what you're going to stop doing. Stop eating junk food. Quit being lazy. Your brain is constantly thinking about the negative thing. But approach goals, on the right, they're all about addition. They focus on what you're going to start doing. Eat one piece of fruit with lunch. Go for a 10-minute walk after work. It's such a subtle shift in framing, but oh man, it has a massive impact. And here is the proof. In that PLOS One study, we're talking over 1,000 people, the results were just undeniable. After a full year, the people with approach-oriented goals had a success rate of almost 59%. Those with the avoidance goals, just over 47%. That is a significant difference. Framing your goal positively literally makes you more likely to succeed. So, here's the crucial point, the big takeaway. Before you do anything else, reframe your goal. Don't focus on what you're trying to give up. Focus on the positive new behavior you're adding to your life. But look, a well-framed goal is only the first step. To really truly succeed, you need a totally different mindset for how you execute it. And this brings us to this really powerful analogy from the business world. You've got to stop being a controller and start thinking like an architect. The controller? That's the person running on pure motivation. They try to force change through sheer willpower, micromanaging their every single move. But when you do that, you become the bottleneck. The architect, on the other hand, doesn't rely on willpower. No, they build systems. They create a machine that makes the desired outcome almost inevitable. So how does the architect do this? By obsessing over something called growth friction. These are all the tiny, invisible obstacles that make good behaviors hard and bad behaviors super easy. I mean, think about it. Why do resolutions fail? It's the friction. The architect's whole job is to find and remove that friction. Packing your gym bag the night before, that's removing friction. Meal prepping healthy lunches for the week, that's removing friction. The shift in thinking here is just profound. Stop trying to be the hero who can power through any obstacle with brute force. Instead, become the engineer of your own environment. Build a system where doing the right thing is actually the path of least resistance. Okay, so we've got an approach-oriented goal, and we have an architect's mindset. Now we need the actual tool to build the system. And thankfully, psychologists have developed a brilliantly simple and incredibly effective one. Let's talk about the power of if-then. Now, the formal name for this tool is an implementation intention. I know it sounds super complex, but it's not. All it is a plan you make in advance to connect a specific cue in your environment to a specific action you want to take. You're basically preloading a decision. That way, when the moment comes, there's no thinking involved. You just act. And the way you create one of these implementation intentions is with this incredibly simple format. If situation X happens, then I will do behavior Y. That's it. That simple sentence is the actual blueprint for your new habit. Let's just walk through it real quick. First, you start with your approach goal. For example, I will meditate for 5 minutes daily. Simple. Then you define your cue. That's the if part. It has to be something really specific that already happens in your routine, like if I finish my morning coffee. And finally, you define your action, the then part. Then I will immediately sit on the couch and start my meditation app. See what you did there? You've now built a system. You've removed the friction of deciding when and where to meditate. The coffee cup hitting the counter becomes the automatic trigger. So now it's time to put it all together. Because this isn't just about learning something interesting, right? This is about designing a real change in your life. So I want to leave you with this question. Forget about grand, vague resolutions for a second. Based on what we've just talked about, what is one small, approach-oriented system you can design for yourself right now using a simple if-then plan? Don't try to change everything at once. Just build one machine. Because in the end, that's what it all comes down to. That's what separates the 19% who succeed from the 81% who fail. It's not about having more willpower. It's not about finding more motivation. It's about having a better system. So forget the resolution. Build a system.